Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the Argentinian meme coin market. Loaded up for discussion today. We have Milei and Hayden from Kelsey Ventures. Plot thickens. Articles allege Hayden is paying the president's sister, and that secret conversations have been taking place to manage the LIBRA fallout. This story just keeps getting wilder and wilder. We will deal with some of those details later today. Well, we'll deal with all of the details, but we're not going to obsess over them because there are other big important pieces of news too. We don't want to dwell in this nonsensical set of facts that keep arising. Next, we're going to talk about Curve Finance founder raising $50 million, 50 million FDV for a new project yield basis to mitigate impermanent loss. That is very interesting. Brett is going to break that down in just a little bit. And then also, but back to the nonsensical, Barstool CEO Portnoy releases 2 greed tokens yesterday and claims to funnel profits into Jailstool. So some serious stuff going on, some insane stuff going on, and some interesting stuff going on. Sounds like a normal week in crypto. We'll get into all of it in just a little bit, along with some general reflections and market discussions. I've got Legendary and Brett with me in the co-host seat today, ready to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, that nothing that we do or say in this show is financial advice. This market is very, very risky. We, we encourage you to take your own decisions and use your own caution and judgment. With that out of the way, Brett, it is Wednesday. It is the 19th of February. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Well, I just woke up about an hour ago. Kaido's they really get after it these days. And I see that we are going to be potentially gajillionaires here shortly. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm trying to.
Well, we might be, because we might sell some, but you tend to, you're in everything for the long term, right, Brett? You just hold your asset.
Yeah, I'm a community member for basically everything. Yeah, no, I mean, I sold my NFT. That's a good sign, right? I'm saying the words out loud so that people can guilt and shame me. The listeners of this show can remind me to just get GTFO, as I'm horrible at doing. I still have my whiff bag. I've been meaning to sell that for months. And I keep seeing vague references to the dog dying on the timeline. I don't want to look at my bag, but I'm thinking not great.
Well, it's good for entertainment purposes at this point. Put it down as a business expense, Brett. Yeah. It's providing good. It's providing good content.
Tax guy today. Maybe I can talk to him about that. Can this actually be a write-off for?
It's I keep talking about it, and it's getting great engagement, and it's great for the show as well. Maybe we can contribute to that. Your bag holding is producing great content, so that's good for us at least. Good we went there straight away. I think 2 things about the Kaito thing. We're going to get into the main headlines as usual in just a bit, but since that's probably on the top of people's minds, let's stay there. Legendary, someone in my comments earlier asked, oh, what are you going to do? You're going to buy? You're going to hold? Are you going to sell? And I responded, I'm going to sell some or all, and then I'm going to do zero-based budgeting. If I need it for the business, I'll buy it. I think when they put out the tokenomics so soon before, it's hard to evaluate, right? So depending on the valuation, that's usually my game. I've been pretty transparent, and it was funny because the response was, oh, I didn't think that, I'm surprised that you, a lot of people might not say if they're going to sell.
Is your interpretation that it's all good, regardless, you're not trying to optimize for selling at the peak, right? Or fair valuation?
And if people have been following me for a while, I say this on every single airdrop, I'm busy. I'm doing the modern market.
What if you sold hype at drop? Would you just take that W?
I didn't sell hype at the airdrop. Do you know what? With hype, I didn't know that I had it. Because I was only providing liquidity.
But would you not have felt bad? You drop it, you get it at $3, and then you're like, oh, it runs to 24. If you had done proper market analysis,
Look, I agree. I think there are very, very few things that are like hype, right? Very, very few things.
Me saying this means I need to sell this shit as soon as I get it, because I'm already
you're already thinking that it's hype.
Yeah, I'm fucking myself up.
And so, I don't know why people are saying that. Don't make the hyperliquid comparison. This is the thing that's going to catch everyone all the time. But my point is, I think the way to approach these things in general is that I've kind of invested. Actually, I was thinking about this the other day. Airdrop farmers get a bad rep. However, when you're airdrop farming, you're actually investing, because you may not have got into a seed round, you may not have got into the pre-seed deal, but you have identified that this protocol is worth either your time or your money, and you have invested what you can, at a slightly later date. And it is your bet. It's like you're kind of still making a VC bet that this protocol will be valuable in the future, and therefore I'm going to tie up my time or my capital in it. And then this is your payday, right? In the same way that other people get tied up in something, you're kind of investing either your time or your capital. That's at least one way to look at it. Legendary, wanted to come to you on this. I feel like it's quite easy to be transparent and just say, like, yeah, my perspective on all airdrops is to sell. And then if I need it for the business, and to be fair, there are certain things in the documents which suggest that either Yaps is going to be a currency, or that it's going to be integrated in some way in some interesting thing, I can then build. Once I know those full details, I can then decide how much of this do I need. What are you thinking on that?
Very transparently, I've been buying Yaps on the OTC market, not only from Loopify, but also a couple other people. I've been a subscriber of Kaito for, I don't know, like half a year almost. So I still have my NFT. I have a fair share of Yaps, and I do intend to sell a good amount of the airdrop. There's also like tax reasons to do that. There's just the reason that I think it's the best strategy to sell all airdrops. And then buy in, not for business purposes, but like actually buy in when I just like the price, for like further price speculation on that is something I've been doing. And I think there's like, if you look at, or if I look at all the airdrops that I claimed, the strategy still would have been the best to sell them and then just buy back. And yes, you're going to miss the hyperliquid, but keeping all airdrops is worse for your P&L than basically hoping that you're going to have the hyperliquid offset all of the other wins. If you're someone who frequently claims airdrops, I very transparently did the same with my Pudgy Penguins, with the Penguin airdrop, which I sold on day one, which I then ended up buying back over the last couple of weeks to get a nice significant exposure for abstract as well again. So this is the playbook that I've been running for years, and this will be the same. And it never says anything about, me liking or not liking a project. It's just optimizing a decision on a financial basis for myself.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Maybe the way I slightly vary is I typically just sell out. And if I have any connection to the project, then I'll monitor it to see, like, okay, do I need this token in future? Is it going to be helpful? My primary thing is, like, is it going to be helpful for the business in some way? Is it useful for me to hold? But if it isn't, I'll just typically sell and move on, because I'm looking at it. I'm like a capital allocator. I'm allocating capital. If I haven't been able to get into the seed round for Kaito or something else, and like I'm allocating capital or attention towards it. I did that recently, Legendary, you mentioned with Ethereal, for example. It's like, I think that's a DEX. It's built on the Athena network. I think that can be a valuable thing. So I throw a bunch of money at it. And then depending on where it comes out, I'm likely to want to see the return on me putting the money that I put in. So I think that's the way I view it. And I actually don't know why people are less like, sell shaming is ridiculous. I don't think anyone should have that be done. That is my definitive position on that. Look, we want to get into the main headlines today in just a moment, as usual. But before we do that, I just want to shout out our partners at Proof of Play. Dith cannot be with us today, unfortunately, but just wanted to shout out a cool event that they're running at ETH Denver, which, if you are going, I'm sure will be awesome. They're going to be talking about app chains at an event at ETH Denver. It's going to be all kinds of interesting founders there, including the Proof of Play founder, Amit, who, if you don't know, was the founder of Farmville, that colossal game on Facebook back in the day. So real legit builders at Proof of Play. If you want to catch them there, that's where you'll be able to see them. So let's keep it moving, getting into the headlines today, starting with the price action as usual, starting with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is flat at 96.3K. We've got ETH up 1% to 2.7K. Solana recovering slightly from its lows yesterday. I think it dipped down as low as not 1.6, 160 back to $173. So we're going to report on the other ones because they're bigger than all of those coins. BNB is at 656 flat. XRP is also flat at $2.60. Feels like a bit of a lull here in the majors where things are just settling again after the wild volatility recently. On the meme coin side of things, we have Doge, which is flat at 25 cents. We've got Trump up 3%. Bonk is flat. Flocky is up 5. Whiff is flat. Pengu's down another 5. Pengu's finding it difficult at the moment, for sure. Down 15% on the week as well. Ket is up 8%, one of those AVAX runners. There's been a bunch of pre-sales on AVAX, actually, which I think maybe some of them are live, some of them are closing at the moment, really trying to emulate what happened with Ket and what was the other one? Wink. Yeah, those two pre-sales, absolutely huge cooks on AVAX. AI16Z down a couple of percent. Fartcoin down another couple of percent, down 40% on the week. That's got wrecked this week, realistically. Mog's down 7%. Popcat's down a few percent. ARK is up 7%, also down 40% on the week, though. So some of that AI stuff's got wrecked again. AI XVT is still down 25%, but flat now on the day. Getting into the main headlines themselves, as we said, we have where are we? We've got Milei and Hayden Kelsey Ventures plot thickening. The articles that have emerged allege that Hayden is paying the president's sister and that secret conversations have been taking place to manage the LIBRA fallout. We'll dive into that in a little bit. Got the Curve Finance founder raising funds at a $50 million valuation for a new project called Yield Basis, which is going to be designed to mitigate impermanent loss, which is always one of the things which is difficult to manage in crypto. Brad will be breaking that down in a bit. And then we've got the Barstool CEO, Dave Portnoy, releasing 2 greed tokens yesterday and claiming to funnel profits into jail store, really making a general mockery of the meme coin ecosystem. Always in his tweets mentioning these are collectibles, don't lose what you can't afford. Taking those words right out of David Sacks's mouth that AI and cryptos are when they spoke about meme coins as collectibles. I don't know if I agree with that. In fact, I'm almost certain that I don't agree with that. That might be the current position, though. So expect to see more of that until it's punished, which I don't think it will be at the moment. So that's what's going on in the headlines. Legendary, what's going on the NFT side?
Not the best day to be an NFT holder necessarily. Bored Apes down almost 5%, a 13.09 ETH floor, getting dangerously close to falling under 13 ETH. Pudgy's down 2.5%, 8.66 ETH floor. Ladies, they are up. They are up 4%, 3.95 ETH floor. Toodles up 2%, 3.82 ETH floor. Azuki's, however, down another 3.5%, 2.82 ETH floor. And just because we mentioned it at the top of the show, Kaito Genesis NFTs, obviously they are down massively on the week after the snapshot. They're down 45%. However, they did have a green day yesterday. They went actually up a bit more now, just as I refreshed, corrected down a bit more, but they're still at a 4.35 ETH floor. And the low was 2.5 ETH yesterday, but technically they're up 3% over the last 24 hours.
Like it. Thanks for the NFT breakdown, getting into the Web3 Roundup to get up to speed with everything else in the space. Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy from MicroSailor, announced another $2 billion private offering to buy more Bitcoin. We'll see if that gets filled. Schwab, one of the largest brokerages in the country, creates new executive position of head of digital assets. That the point being made there was, look, it might be carnage everywhere else, but these titans are hiring. Like, this stuff is not going away. Try not to get wrecked in the meantime. Bitwise announces funding to maintain Bitcoin BTC Core. That's good to see. People, the investors investing in the network itself. There was a rumor going around yesterday, which I think was quickly shut down. There was a rumor that Murad was selling his SPX position OTC to Galaxy Digital. The head of research at Galaxy Digital came out and denied that. He said, I've seen the photos being shared. They are forgeries. The ID badge in the photos is not ours. The email groups are not real email distribution lists. None of this is real. So that was good that people moved quite quickly to dispel that. Binance Alpha, the pre-selected pool for listing coins, has selected 3 broccoli coins. Broccoli coin obviously being CZ's dog. I'm not sure what's going on there and why they would choose to pick 3. I think all the activity on all 3 will probably be going crazy. But we'll consider Binance and BNB a little bit more in a moment. FOMO announces a $2 million pre-seed round with impressive list of angel investors. I picked this out because I noticed the co-founder of Solana is on here, Balaji's on here, Brian Pellegrino, CEO of Layer Zero, is on here. You've got Yuhu, CEO of Kaito, on here, Zagabond, Azuki founder, a bunch of other partners of VCs and stuff. I thought it was a really impressive list. Smokey from Berachain is on it. Very impressive list of angels. And then finally, on the abstract side, I think we touched on it yesterday, but a bit more information came out. Cardex was hacked on abstract and user funds were lost. The team shares post-mortem and they're working to recover the user funds. That was not an abstract hack. It was like the app specifically, Cardex. And I think they're working to get that stuff sorted and try to recover those funds as we speak. So that is Web3 Roundup, to get you up to speed with everything else that's been happening. We're going to get to the main headlines in a moment. But before we get there, what is catching our attention, boys? Maybe Legendary first, then we go to Bread from the Roundup or elsewhere. Legendary, what are you thinking?
Binance news is interesting, seeing 3 broccoli coins being listed at the same time. Obviously, we've seen the PvP on the DEX side of things with so many coins, but I don't think we've seen a similar situation like this before, where an exchange goes like, okay, we have 3 top contestants for this specific coin, because there is not really a canonical broccoli coin, as
Canonical broccoli.
as CZ has said, he's not going to create a coin himself. So the market has figured out which one to rally the most. And it's weird on the one hand. On the other hand, it's interesting to see the experiment on the centralized side of things. If basically the broccoli that has been the most successful in the trading in the market so far will also continue to be the most successful one on the centralized exchange, if that's gonna differ, or if the market reaction is gonna be, that is so weird and wild, we're just gonna sell off all of those and we have no interest in fighting on Binance which broccoli is the winning broccoli.
I can't get over canonical broccoli. It's just a ridiculous concept. Okay, question on Binance Alpha. I don't know the answer to this. I wonder if any of you guys do. What's the process there? Binance Alpha, is that supposed to spotlight things which are being like on a being considered list? Are they all supposed to then get listed once you make it to Binance Alpha? Do you know the answer to that? Like, are they really going to list all 3?
Not necessarily. They Binance Alpha, their own description is that it serves as a pre-listing token selection pool designed to enhance transparency in the process of token consideration for Binance exchange listing. So I don't think that the answer is going to be that all 3 of those will be listed, but there's probably going to be one winner. I would even think it's weird if there's 2 winners, but it's still a situation that I don't think that we had it play out like that before, to put 3 of the essentially same tokens in the Binance Alpha selection pool.
Interesting. It's very, very interesting stuff. Obviously, we reported on BNB recently going to all-time highs. I wanted to link this with one of our partner launches. They're going to be launching tomorrow. It's Bad AI, who are an AI launchpad. And I think it's just some interesting an interesting confluence of things that are happening on BNB, which makes this an interesting project, which we invested in. So CZ is back launching dog coins on BNB, and Binance Alpha obviously listing these 3 versions of the coin. So like, there's clearly a desire to get activity onto BNB right here, right now. There's that $4.4 million liquidity program, which has just started. We reported on that a couple of days ago. I think that actually kicked off yesterday. So this is them going to be routinely injecting capital into BNB memes specifically. So they're trying to inject the liquidity there. And then interestingly for the AI side, because Bad AI is going to be a launch pad, he actually came out and said just the other day that he said not trying to push any specific AI agents, but want to see more AI agent development on chain with real use cases. Real development often happens after the hype has passed. And I think obviously a lot of the AI coins are beat up at the moment after the first round of hype, but we're pretty set that, you know, this stuff is going to exist and participate in the crypto economy moving forward. So it's interesting to see CZ kind of explicitly say that. And that's why we've kind of partnered with Bad AI. We made an investment and we'll be doing some advisory with them. Interestingly, Flocky is one of their biggest meme coin communities on BNB, and they are a launch partner, and their holders will be getting a proportion of the supply. And AIXBT also said that they are going to attempt to fill the gap as the first major AI agent protocol on BNB. Although I guess that's just the message they're trying to put out there. And I think that there are some other AI agent protocols coming out too. So I think it's interesting to see two things. One, the AI agent stuff going on BNB, because I think that it will have to exist there, right? Everyone wants to put their flag in the ground for the AI agent stuff. And then this clear desire from BNB to like inject liquidity at the moment. Legendary, any reflections there?
Yeah, I mean, it's on the liquidity side, it's a playbook that we've seen done by AVAX very, very successfully. I think the timing of such
AVAX as well, yeah.
Liquidity incentivization is very good because the sentiment on Solana for memes for AI coins is not the best at the moment. Specifically, I agree with CC's point to say that real development, real use cases come after the hype, and we've definitely seen the hype for AI agents falling off, not only with AIXPT, but also Virtuals, which was the main or is the main launch platform on Base, but is down significantly from its all-time high that it had hit at around $5 billion FTV. And I do think that the competition is open for a couple other chains who want to grab a bit of a spotlight, a bit of an exposure there. I think because tying that into AVAX, because you had mentioned before that there's a couple pre-sales going on or about to close. One of them was Albert, which I had posted this morning because I did my application for that, which is then an AI platform as well, in the section AI gaming, gambling. So we do see a couple more chains trying to come up with something to fill the gap or to fill the AI infrastructure needs. And yeah, very curious to see what Bad AI is going to do in that environment.
I like it. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that. Brad, coming to you, whether it's to do with AI, whether it's to do something else, what is catching your attention in the market this week before we get into the main headlines today?
I'll do a quick three. One is your comment on the Murad thing where like, oh, they addressed it swiftly, right? They came through and said like that it's not actually happening. And it's like, that was already at like 1.1 million impressions on Kook's post. And like, so ridiculous how fast that stuff runs.
Like,
whenever
the market can't cope with that type of thing right now. Like it really can't. Please let this not be true.
Yeah, it's just funny, like, yeah, just how fast that stuff runs right now. The second is I actually just made a post on, because I was looking at the Kaido deployer to see if they'd done any activity on chain. They actually deployed the staking contract like 30 hours ago. So I was looking through that. That has a blacklist feature on there, has cooldown periods of like 7 days with a max of 90 days, which are kind of in the same iterations as like the connect voting. So I wonder if there's any like just routine weekly things that they're trying to implement there. But yeah, the blacklist feature is interesting because you can blacklist specific accounts and then they can.
What are you trying to tell us, Brad? Are you telling us that we can't sell the airdrop?
they can blacklist us and then steal our Kaido. Yeah, it's like an explicit thing in the contract. Whatever. I think it's actually just like normal security shit. So there's that.
Sometimes and then, technical people, you know too much. You've done too much investigating here. We didn't need to do that.
Yeah, that one's fun. And then the other one. So since we're doing technical stuff, the abstract exploit. I think that's something that's worth talking about. So, or at least like explaining what actually happened and like why.
Yeah, please, that'd be great.
Yeah. So okay, so abstract. If no one saw it, there's an exploit that was that occurred on chain. Abstract is an L2, right? It was just launched by the Pudgy Penguins team, Saigar, Luca, all those guys. One of the key features of the actual chain, like they're trying to be consumer friendly, which means they're trying to abstract away all the technical complexities. One of the things that they did for that is native account abstraction. That just means like whenever you come to the chain, you have your account, it's an EROA, externally owned account, would be like you have a private key for this thing and you're the one that signs for it, whatever. It is now turned into a smart contract, which means you're not given a private key whenever you come on platform. You sign in socially, right, with your Gmail or another wallet, whatever, and it hides that stuff in the background. That the private key is still on chain. It's in the contract. Anyways, that allows you to be like more complex with all the features that you can natively have as a user on that chain. One of those features is a thing called session keys. A session key is like something that it isolates your transactions and your interactions to a specific window, a session, right? If you're playing a gaming session, right, you come on, you create a key that is only live for that session, that and a half hour, and you don't have to constantly submit transactions and sign these things. It can do it on the back end, right? It has permissions for that entire session to continuously sign stuff for you. So that's great. What's not great is one of the applications recently that implemented these session keys didn't have the best security practices. And what they did was you came to the site, you created a session key. They created a signer for this thing. Because they didn't have great security, they exposed the private key of the thing that was signing the transactions on the back end, right, for you as a user. So like you come in, you sign a thing, you give permissions to a signer. This team had this one signer that they were using. Typically, you should use that for only one person and have a unique one for every single person. They made the mistake of using it for all users and then also exposing it to the user in the browser, right? So you come to the site, you create a key, they expose the thing that is actually signing on your behalf on the back end. And then that thing applies to everyone who comes to that website. So not great, right? It should be unique for every single person. Malicious people came, they saw that, they obtained that thing that was in plain text. It should have been encrypted. It should have been unique, all these things. But because they had this private key that was exposed for everyone, they could then go and submit transactions on everyone else's behalf that came to that site and just said like, hey, give me your money, right? Just give me it. And that's what happened. So like they obtained this private key. Anyone who came to the site after that fact and started a session, they would sign on their behalf and say, give me their money, give me their money, give me their money.
Because it's like one code for everyone, basically.
It was, yeah, right.
What quick question on that then. Is this a unique issue to Abstract because of the way that they've designed their wallet, or could this happen as you log into any app as well?
Any app anywhere, or any app on Abstract specifically, or
any app outside of Abstract? Is this like a thing to do with the design of the wallet itself?
No, it is a feature of the wallet, but it's like that's not even unique to Abstract, right? Like this exists on other chains as a thing.
So someone else could have done this as well. But the point is, it just needs to be encrypted and sorted. It's not like a fundamental issue with the wallet design.
Yes, it's not. Yeah, there's nothing that Privy could have done to prevent it. There's nothing that Abstract could have done to prevent it. This is a bad leveraging of the technology by this specific application team, right? They used bad practices, exposed the things that they shouldn't have, and put all of their users at jeopardy. Again, there's nothing that could have been done by Abstract or Privy to stop this.
Amazing. That's super helpful to be able to do that breakdown. I was going to say bread down. Maybe that's the new name.
Bread down.
The bread down. The bread breakdown is the bread down.
Yep.
I like it. All right. Look, that's really helpful. I think sometimes diving into that technical stuff is slightly more complicated, but really illuminating when stuff like this happens. So appreciate that, Brad. Let's keep it moving though, guys. We've got 25 minutes left today. We are yet to get into the headlines. Some of them ludicrous, some of them interesting, some of them just, we don't know what's going on anymore. So let's start with one of them that's a little bit of all of those things. The Libra token co-creator claimed he paid the Argentinian president's sister. It was unclear if any money was exchanged between Davis and Milei's inner circle in advance of Libra's launch, but these text messages basically emerged, which suggested that the Libra co-creator Hayden Davis bragged in text messages that he bought influence over the president. Davis said in December that he could send money to Milei's powerful sister, and the quote was that he does what I want. The claim adds a new dimension to the anti-corruption investigation into Milei's promotion of Libra. Obviously we've been covering this for a couple of days now, right? The token that was launched called Libra by Kip Kelsier Ventures and the president has been widely discussed, and people are not happy with how Kelsier ended up with $100 million, and they've still got that in their custody. So that's the background with this, and why so many people are caring about what's happening. It seems to be a widespread thing. They've been doing this with multiple other people too. In addition to that, there was another piece of news that came out which suggested that, I'm just getting it up on screen as well. Local media have also reported in addition now, this is after the kind of press tour that Hayden did, kind of saying that, I don't know what's going to happen, don't know why he rescinded his promises, don't know why he took it down. He said local media also reported that Hayden Davis has kept in contact with Milei's team to manage the scandal. Conversations include a promise that Milei would not accuse him of wrongdoing, and plans to send an envoy to meet him this week. That was reported in one of the live interviews actually as well yesterday, where he said someone from the Argentine government is going to be coming to pay him a visit in the next week or so. They have also told him to stop doing interviews. To be honest, I think that aspect of the news just makes a lot of sense, that he should be in contact with them to try to manage this. They should be telling him to stop doing interviews, and I wouldn't be surprised someone's going to sit him down and have some commentary on his PR strategy so far, which is to come out and kind of talk about all of these things openly. That's the situation as it is. We yesterday emphasized that there are some things that are above our pay grade, and I do believe that this is one of those things. So I'm going to go straight to legendary. Brad is smiling as I go to him as the political commentator here. What are we thinking here, boys? Like, I just retweeted a tweet yesterday from Ovi, which was like, tired of the crime.
I saw that. I felt that. I felt that.
I'm tired now. But what are we doing with this information, Ledge, and then Brad?
Okay, I'm gonna go a bit of a different way. I think it's like psychologically fascinating that it is the same pattern that SBF has shown or had shown in the past after everything. Yes, exactly. Like touring the press, incriminating yourself more and more and more, like feeling this need to get everything out. I can't imagine what it feels like to be in either Hayden's or SBF's situation. But it's very interesting to see that the like human reaction behind both of those cases is the same. It's like talk, incriminate yourself even more, kind of feel a need to, maybe in your mind you think you're like really innocent, not guilty, being tripped up in everything that's happening around yourself, and you want to explain what's going on, and you end up oversharing. That I find just on a psychological level fascinating.
Sure. I bet that there's some business book somewhere, or like some either business book or some like very elite like political story where Machiavelli, like I bet they've read Machiavelli, for example, and I bet it says somewhere you have to control the narrative. And like these people take that in their heads, and because they're like slightly twisted, they're just like, okay, I am this powerful person. And because these people are, right, the guy made $100 million over the weekend, and God knows how much in all the other stuff. SBF, a similar situation. They take that information from like some historical power figure, and they just apply it to themselves. Like, well, I can go out and control the narrative because
I already control the president, right?
because I've controlled the president, because I've controlled the money, because I bet that is the message in their head. I need to control. I control this. Therefore, I can control this, and the more and everything in everything else that they do, they can control it. And then this thing in particular just gets out of hand. But there's that disconnect. Like, well, you can't actually control this one now, I think. Brad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to further that. It kind of reminds me of you need character traits, like specific character traits to even get to the position that they're at. Kind of like CEOs, right? Like CEO positions attract like,
you got to be a bit of a psycho, yeah.
Right, a certain type of person, because they need to have control. They need to like feel a little bit of like grandiosity about themselves, like all this stuff. I think it's.
What are you saying about me, Brad? What are you saying about me?
CEO of modern market.
You said it yourself.
Yeah, like, but I genuinely think that's the case, right? Like these, like I often feel that whenever I see this stuff of like, who do these people think they are? Like, clear, like, dude's got $100 million, so fuck me, right? Like, but like, who do you think you are to I don't know, to like it? Maybe there's a level of empowerment you see in that where it's like these people just like try and grab the world by the balls, and they do stuff that's like frankly not awesome. But they achieve a lot of things, notable or not. But then the other side of it's just like yeah, you have to have a certain level of unhinged like power creep, whatever, in your head to allow yourself to get to that point. And that is what allows you to then go over the top at the end, where it's like you can't reel yourself in because you have to exist in this plane of whatever the fuck these guys exist in to get to that point.
Yeah, a friend of mine put it beautifully. Just adding to that, if you take your typical crypto degen and you have like a degen dinner Friday night, all the degens get drunk, get pissed, and then you like start to think about your wildest dreams. Dude, imagine what if a country were to launch a meme coin and we do this and this and that, and then there's exactly this type of person who is like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do exactly that, but a sober mind would never think of.
I think both of those things are right. It's out of a story. I mean, it's going to be a great story when someone tells this, for sure. When like people get on top of all of it and tell it in like an interesting way. But Brad, to your point, like I think that's exactly what happens, right? When I think people in power, they're just doing what they've done before. And so to the extent that the reason why that they're so successful,
it works until it doesn't. Yeah.
Like they're just doubling down on their previous strategies, and there gets to a point, I guess, where that will not work sometimes. And I think about this all the time, actually, because one of my favorite types of movies are like like American Gangster, for example, where just like stories of empires being built up, and then I'm fascinated with like why empires fall. And I think empires always fall because of some type of arrogance or inability to stay grounded, and just thinking that you can just keep extending yourselves and thinking that you're invincible. I think invincibility happens to people who are like hyper successful. And this is from a historical perspective. Like I studied history, and so I'm interested in it from that perspective. But I think, as you said, there's like these parallels with CEOs and empire building, whether it's a corporate empire, whether it's a political empire. I think there's like interesting parallels there. So yeah, I'm fascinated by that too. Kind of a bit of a tangent, but all things, all in all, the story's obviously escalating. Where do we see, and I don't know if we know the answer to this question, we might just keep it moving, but we said yesterday we didn't think it was we said yesterday we didn't think it was going to end just yet. It's not going to end just yet. Maybe thinking about the market then, because we want to try and tie all of the stuff into the market. Maybe that is where our pay grade is. Thoughts about the market as this stuff just continues to play out and won't go away, maybe will not go away for a little while longer. Legendary, I know you've like taken off some of your exposure to risk, been comfortable in stables, actually way well in advance of this, to be fair to you, which is probably a great play. But like, how are you viewing it, watching all of this stuff play out for your portfolio and for the market in general?
My take on that remains unchanged. Sold most of my SOL in December, or a good part, not most of it. Sold the rest 3 days ago now. I don't think this is anywhere near a quote unquote like death sentence for Solana or whatever. Horrible sentiment. Yes, absolutely. Solana survived SBF. It will survive this as well, but just for right now, for the next couple of weeks, and it might even recover even faster than that. But I just don't have any interest in kind of participating in the ecosystem right now, especially as we don't know if there's like any contagion. And I had a very significant GLP position that I also have shared, and I'm like, I just can happily, not have it for 2 or 3 weeks. It's a 90-something% chance that nothing's going to happen to it. But I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to, die of not farming APY for 2 weeks by not having that. So happy to pull out, wait it out, and then just go back in.
I think that's the right interpretation. Like the tech doesn't change with those stuff, right? Like Solana, Solana achieved its current position because of some actual improvements that people were actually enjoying. Because it got frothy and people use that stuff for wrong, like, does not change the fact that it was able to establish that position. But Legendary has the right position there, where, like, yeah, sentiment's just not great right now. Everyone's tired of the crime, and like it or not, like, that's taking the shine right now. So it's kind of diluting all the back end stuff that's actually being done, whether it's like Helium, Hive Mapper, like there's actual things that are actually happening there that are useful and novel, innovative, all that shit. So I think sentiment wise, which is all trading is, right? You're trading narratives, you're trading sentiment, you're trading those things short term. I think it's a smart move to get out of that. We're probably going to have this like the contagion that we're constantly joking about now, that just like continues to bubble up, just like it did for FTX. Like, we can't say that like it's as structurally dangerous as it was for FTX, where like you had just cascading like collapses and liquidations in the back end that just kind of like revealed, and like bodies just kept floating to the surface like every 3 weeks. I don't know that we're going to have like actual on-chain bodies come to the surface, but we will have off-chain bodies come to the surface, right? You're going to have sentiment stuff. You're going to have social damage. You're going to have all that stuff, but you're not going to have like, oh, $10 billion just got liquidated.
Funds blowing
Market
up,
body.
yeah.
Right. So like, I think that the narratively, we're going to have bodies coming to the surface for a while. And I think that's what trading is going to largely be around. But it's a good opportunity to keep an eye on the ecosystem, because, as he said, like, FTX was a very legitimate, like, financial bodies were coming to the surface continuously for a long period of time, and it bounced back because of that, or after that. So I think we'll see the same thing here.
I'm just like finding funny the imagery of like off-chain bodies, like off-chain bodies distinguished from on-chain bodies. We don't mind the off-chain bodies as much, not as bad.
I've on-chain, off-chain has like pierced my like vernacular for
Really?
everything. I even said it for like Twitter too. It's like, oh, on Twitter, it's like all this off-chain work that you bring on-chain onto Twitter. Like, that's how you have like a good post. Is like you spend a lot of time off-chain doing things, and you come back and you post it, and like you make it in a succinct package. And just like, yeah, it's just kind of taking over my life.
It's just like life happens off-chain, and then Twitter is like real life, but on-chain. On-chain is real. Okay, interesting stuff. Look, I don't want to dwell. I'm sure we're going to have to like keep adding bits of info to this story as the days go on. We'll stay on top of it as always, but there is also other interesting stuff going on, as well as some other nonsensical stuff. So I don't know whether, should we just deal with the Barstool stuff first, and then we'll get to Bread's segment, which is maybe arguably more interesting. Do you want to just hit up what Portnoy was up to yesterday, and then we'll move on?
Yeah, absolutely. What a beautiful segue from one nonsensical news to the next one.
Yes.
I think what has happened is that, let me get this up on screen. Dave Portnoy has launched 2 meme coins yesterday. The first of which being Greed, then basically has kept I think it was a 35% allocation of that, has sold all of that. After that, has launched Greed 2. And it was actually Stats, who's also requesting to join us on stage right now, who had a very beautiful summary or interpretation of what is going on. Stats shared this post saying, at this point, I don't think Dave Portnoy is trying to make money. He's trying to make a mockery of meme coins and crypto, which me adding to that is what he did when he went on a live stream yesterday, basically in his bed and shitting on crypto for 10 minutes and calling everyone an idiot for buying the coins that he keeps launching. Stats continued then to say he's discovered an infinite money glitch. He posts a ticker to his 3.5 million followers, instantly moans, and he does it again. He's amused by the hamster wheel of traders blindly following his moves, so he just keeps spinning that. And then the interesting question was, and this is where Stats, if you're available, where I want to hear from you, is why does it keep working? You said perhaps meme coin traders hate boredom. When he posts, there's activity, so they jump on the calls. A lot is automatic. So where is this going from here? Is he just going to continue to spam meme coin after meme coin until they don't go to 1 million? They maybe go to a couple 100,000 anymore. Does he get bored of this game? Will others follow in his steps? What are you thinking, Stats?
I mean, I think it'll get boring eventually. Like, the one thing that I didn't know when I posted that is, there are 2 other wallets that sniped a ton of of greed on the launch, and both of them made over $300,000. So I thought maybe like he's lying to us, and he has these side wallets that are actually that are sniping with him, and he's working with people who know how to snipe, and you kind of making that all on the side. Although I no longer think that's the case. I think he's actually just literally. I mean, I think those sniper wallets are just like legitimate sniper wallets who are any degen who are taking risk and making money. But yeah, I mean, look, I think my sense is that meme coin traders just want movement, just want action. I people on the timeline bragging about how they made money on greed, because even though he dumped it, like if you bought it and sold it within 10 minutes, you made money. So I think like that is more interesting to people than whatever else is on, like whatever else you can do on Pump.fun, where it doesn't do anything. So I think there is this like copy trading audience for this stuff. That said, we are seeing that these trades are lasting like 20 minutes right now. They used to be that they'd go up until he sold them. Now, I mean, one of the reasons he sold greed yesterday was because it dumped by 70%. He's like, all right, I'm gonna get out of this now. So I like it went, these trades, he's done about 15 of them, and they went from working for a long time to working for 20 minutes. So one would have to think eventually they're only going to work for like 1 minute, and eventually it stops. But never overestimate kind of the worst of the degenerate crowd.
Yeah, I think that's Legendary's just brought up the perfect image to back up what you're saying. Stats is the bold cartoon strip where you've got jail still at the top, the biggest roller coaster, then greed 2, and then greed 3, 4.
Do you remember
5.
Ben?
Ben,
Remember ETH Ben?
Oh, Ben.eth.
Where he did Ben,
So,
and then like Ben 2, and then greed, and then loyal, and then whatever. It's the same shit.
Same shit. Stats, you wanted to come in as well?
Yeah, sorry, Brett. No, I mean, everyone knew that Machi is a sketchy guy, and people still send him $40 million just to his wallet. Like there's something about movement and uncertainty that this space just like Velcros to.
Yeah, that is true. And I think people, it's an obvious, it's a part of the industry that is not going to go away, even if all this other stuff is happening at the same time. As you say, the uncertainty and the velocity is enjoyable to people. It's enjoyable. And actually, I don't know if you saw Portnoy's like vocabulary on it stats. He's been using very pointed vocabulary about that, about how, yes, they are collectibles. You are, don't participate if you're going to lose stuff. Like, I think he's transported those exact words from the Sachs interview, where he's just very much leaning into the fact that it's all a bit of a game, and actually almost accusing his own audience of being part of it.
Well, that's what his supporters say. It's like, this is what all the KOLs do. He's just being transparent about it. And I have like issues I agree and issues I disagree with on that. But like, yeah, he says that like with the Libra one, he mistakenly, after he got paid $5 million in refund money, which I think is I don't know. I mean, the contradiction between the way he does like this whole, well, you're all little baby, you play the game and you lose, and then you get mad at me. But he accepted $5 million when he lost based on insider information that just happened to be wrong. Like, that is to me just kind of contradictory beta bullshit. But his language changes a little bit. Like with after Libra, he sent $170,000 to the wrong contract, and then he tried to pump it on his timeline. And you can tell he wanted that one to go up, because instead he's like, this is collectibles. It could go up. It'll probably go to zero eventually. He didn't say like, I'm going to dump on you, which is what he normally says. Like normally he'll be like, I'm going to sell these eventually, so you should know I'm going to sell them. Before you buy them, I'm selling them. With the Libra one, he actually didn't use that word. He's like, it might go up, it might go down. They're just collectibles, So every now and then, I think he does want like to get his money back if he fucks up like that. But yeah, I think with the greed stuff yesterday, I think he was just making a mockery of everybody. And then he just sends it all, like he sent all his profits to Jail Stool, which he says he won't sell to $1 billion, and I don't think it's going to $1 billion. Like it's at 10 million right now. So I like that type of stuff. I think he's just taking the piss.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a part of it. Look, it's interesting. We'll probably like, to the extent that he's going to keep playing in the game, we'll be analyzing some of his strategies and tweets and watching his behavior. So we'll keep bringing that information to you as it's relevant. Hopefully less relevant moving forward, not going to lie, but hopefully making more time for things like the next headline, Bread, which is kind of more material to crypto. Like it might be, still in the riskier side of things, but do you want to break down what's going on with the Curve Finance founder and what he's attempting to raise for?
Yeah, this actually would have tied in greatly to the first one as well, talking about like founders that kind of have this this mindset of doing all kinds of crazy shit. He's famous for the founder being Michael Egorov, who's famous for like basically owning a bunch of Curve and taking that out and buying a bunch of mansions, like 75 mansions in Australia for like a gajillion dollars, and then causing systemic risk to the entire ecosystem. But besides that, what he's doing here is actually so Curve founder raises a fund for $50 million token valuations for his new project called Yield Basis, which his entire purpose is to mitigate impermanent loss. And impermanent loss, for people who are not familiar with the DeFi sector, right? It's if you go into an LP position in a DEX, right, which means you pair like, let's say USDC and Ethereum, or we'll say two volatile tokens, right? So WIF and SOL, right? You do that pair in a DEX. And as the price moves for either of those tokens inside of the DEX, the impermanent loss means that you basically, whatever dollar amount that you put in, say you put in $10,000 of these two tokens, your dollar amount is probably going to stay roughly the same, even if the valuation of those tokens goes astronomical. And that gap between what the current valuation of those tokens were from your initial put in versus what your actual dollar figure of what you put in initially is the impermanent loss. So again, as an example, let's say I put $10,000 into a DEX, right? Let's say it's 5,000 between WIF and SOL, and WIF has a 500x, right? Had I held on to that WIF would be worth 500 more than it was. If it was 5,000, 5 times 5, it's like 2.5 million, whatever it is, right? It would have been a $2.5 million position. But because I paired it and because I am the liquidity provider and it's constantly oscillating in those prices, my $10,000 worth of these two tokens that I put in still stays around $10,000 plus fees of whatever I earn from people swapping in and out. The impermanent loss is the gap of had I not just done anything, right? If I would just held on to my WIF, I would have got that big X, and that would have been my actual earnings in that position. So that's what impermanent loss is in LPs, and it's actually a big problem with these AMMs because again, people want to have the upside of some of these tokens that they put in instead of like providing liquidity. Anyways, so Michael Egorov, he's raised $50 million, he raised funds at $50 million valuation for a new project called Yield Basis to mitigate impermanent loss, that thing I just described. They raised $5 million, and they're going to do it with the help of tokenized Bitcoin and Ether holders to earn yield from the market making by, again, mitigating this impermanent loss. They raised the $5 million within 2 weeks, and they said it was pretty palpable that the demand, I think they were 15 times oversubscribed for it. And the strategy that they actually deploy to mitigate this impermanent loss is they use 2 times leverage on the liquidity that you provide. So again, if that example I used, $10,000, I would get 2 times the leverage on that $10,000. So you borrow against that in the form of Curve USD, which is Curve's decentralized stablecoin, and then you double up your liquidity position with that. And then on that, you earn some fees, and it's supposed to just mitigate that. So it's not going to be great for extremely volatile assets because simply doubling your position to earn a little bit of extra yield is not going to be great for something that shoots 5,000x or whatever on a meme coin. But for large stable pools that are expected to not move very much, it could be seen as beneficial and mitigate one of the biggest problems of being an LP in these AMMs. It kind of reminds me of like another take on, or like I would say a crypto native strategy similar to the Athena like basis trade stuff, right? It's just like trying to be creative with these positions to earn a little bit of yield to make it long-term effective. And this comes with obviously its own tokens. You can, then you do some layered leveraging shit, looping, whatever. But yeah, that's the goal. They're trying to mitigate impermanent loss.
Interesting. Excellent breakdown again. 2 thoughts, that one on the funding side, one on the risk profile here. That sounds like, on the risk side, it sounds relatively risky. Not gonna lie. Even for the more stable things, just think Solana. Say you were paired with Solana at the moment. Solana went as high as 290 and is down at 170 now. Like that's 40% discrepancy, difference at the moment. ETH at all-time high was for this cycle is what, 3.9 maybe, down at 2.6. Like these type of strategies are definitely further out on the risk curve, even for the things which we consider majors, for sure. I would want to be looking like very carefully about the mechanics, and maybe I'd want to experiment when I see the details, because I would just want to play. But this is definitively further down the risk curve. On the funding side, I just think there's a lot of money in the ecosystem at the moment. Like, I think we're at that period of time where, I don't know if you've been monitoring like the Echo deals, for example, but these things are selling out. Like, they're selling out fast. There's a lot of demand to deploy capital, I think, across the board. I don't think maybe people might get disheartened by the stuff that's going on in the last week or so, but at least up till now, I'm sensing there's a lot of demand to get things funded at the moment. Any final reflections from you, Legendary, on this more kind of complex strategy before we close out?
Yeah, in theory, it's interesting because if you basically double up your liquidity position by entering that leveraged position, you would also increase trading fees because ultimately you're emulating to have a bigger LP. But the risk is exactly that, right? You say you used it profitably, and this is what Egorov said for like the less volatile pairs. But those less volatile things like Sol USDC, if something like Milei happens, suddenly can become very, very volatile. And then you would probably need to be real quick to rebalance your stuff to not get liquidated, or even in absence of not getting liquidated, just having then a significant shift in the fee structure of the borrow fees. Because I think for that to work, you would roughly need to borrow as much as the extent of your USDC position. In that example, say USDC ETH or USDC Solana would be, which then could potentially lead to a situation where that fee increase is so high that it offset the additional gain that you have made. And then you either need to exit the position or hope for it to like rebalance before that has happened. So in theory, it's very interesting. And I think it's important to think about models that can solve for impermanent loss. But even if you play to the less volatile things, they then become very risky once the volatility comes kicking back in, because something is happening that, you know, nobody was expecting.
Just to talk about like the general appetite for LPs, like just looking at the top dexes between Uniswap, Curve, PancakeSwap, Radium, and there's Kodiak and Aerodrome as like the big ones. I mean, we're talking like $12 billion worth of TVL that's sitting in these AMMs. So like, obviously there's different strategies you can deploy within that total TVL, but I mean, there's a pretty fat appetite for, like, that's a lot of capital, right? To like potentially leverage this, or is at least being exposed to impermanent loss to some degree. So, yeah.
And I guess the goal would be like, look, there's that $12 billion number. What proportion of that can we capture? It's a big enough market to go after, right? Like, can we capture 1%, 2%, 10% of that? Or what would be the goal to all those people who are exposed to impermanent loss at the moment? That's a good number to bring up.
It got as high as $75 billion in 2021, the TVL across dexes. That's crazy. It's at 20. It's at total between all the protocols 21 right now, but in 2021 it was up to 78 billion.
God, interesting.
Crazy.
I know we are a couple of minutes over time, but stats going quickly to you before we close out for the day.
I was just gonna say, I'd be curious your thoughts on this, Brad. I find impermanent loss like the most misleading like language triumph that DeFi bros have given the world. Like, it's what they're basically saying is it's basically like saying if you bought a ton of peanut at $1 billion valuation and it's currently at $10 million valuation or whatever it is, that loss is impermanent because it could go back to $1 billion. So it's just,
yeah, it's pretty permanent. Yeah.
It's such a classic, like I said, triumph of the DeFi bros over 99% of people who have no idea what they're talking about.
Yep.
We've said recently, stats, we're trying to be optimistic here. We're trying to shift from pessimism to optimism.
I mean, we can be optimistic, but not like use these terms like, oh, it's impermanent because peanut could go back to $1 billion. Just hold it forever. It's just sometimes we use language. I think a big problem with this space is that everyone's confused as fuck, and I think this type of stuff.
I think that is definitely true. Hopefully, by having these conversations, we provide some additional clarity step by step. So appreciate that additional input, stats. Thanks so much. to Legendary for co-hosting. Thanks to Brad for co-hosting. Thanks for Stats for jumping up with us today and contributing as always. And thank you so much for joining us in the audience, in the YouTube comments. Remember, we do this every single day live for 1 hour at 7 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube, X. You can also catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts too. Have a wonderful day. We will be back again tomorrow at the same time, same place. Have a great day. Bye-bye.